Pteranodon Zoid is frightening. Purple wing blades and organoid system set. Storm Sword and Jet have the Kylos army met. With blazing red eyes of technology, Storm Sword and Jet soars through the skies far and free. With winged swords he slices through the red lure. This metal back to Pteranodon meddler. With blazing red eyes of technology, Storm Sword and Jet soars through the skies far and free. With winged swords he slices through the red lure. This metal back to Pteranodon meddler. Climax landing steel as you break the sound. Storm Sword and Jet is the fastest guy toy around. Slicing and dicing his foes fall to the ground. Before the Mecha Sky Terror comes round. But you have more than blades at your command. Storm Sword and Jet has barrel post guns in hand, while his iron claws enhance his melee. The Pteranodon has both for Zoids to slay. But problems we face with this Zoid machine, the organoid system is hard to preen. So limit the Storm Sword and Jet's numbers we must. So with the juice by ace pilots we trust. Cry like scraping steel as you break the sound. Storm Sword and Jet is the fastest guy toy around. Slicing and dicing his foes fall to the ground. Before the Cyber Sky Terror comes round. Though he's soon phased out for the reign of the Storm Sword of Zoid is not a big loss. What we have learned we can turn to new designs. The Jet Black Pteranodon marks the signs. Cry like scraping steel as you break the sound. Storm Sword is the fastest guy toy around. Slicing and dicing his foes fall to the ground. Before the Cyber Sky Terror comes round. Cry like scraping steel as you break the sound. Storm Sword and Jet is the fastest guy toy around. Slicing and dicing his foes fall to the ground. Before the Cyber Sky Terror comes round. Though he's soon phased out for the Reynos, the Storm Sword of Zoid is not a big loss. What we have learned we can turn to new designs. The Jet Black Pteranodon marks the signs. Cry like scraping steel as you break the sound. Storm Sword is the fastest guy toy around. Slicing and dicing his foes fall to the ground. Before the Cyber Sky Terror comes round.